Welcome to This Dementia Life, created by Dementia Action Alliance. Our website is daanow.org. I'm proud to be your host, Chuck McClatchey, and I live my dementia life with Alzheimer's disease. During this Dementia Life podcast, we will have conversations with inspiring people living with dementia and the amazing people who care about us. I am so fortunate and so happy to have my dear friend, Karen Love, who was one of the co-founders and executive director of DAA. Karen, kind of give us an idea of what, your background and how DAA came to be.
Well, thank you, Jack. It's an honor to be on the program. Thank you so much. So we are coming up in July to start celebrating our 25th anniversary, which is mind-boggling, on one level. And then, when we look back at all the different things that we've accomplished, you feel every one of those 25 years. So I started out my professional life after college as a speech therapist. And that's an important part of the story because, like all of the therapies, it's strength-based. You are focused on the abilities that a person has, and you work and help support and engage and enable them around that. Well, fast forward, turns out I liked systems more than specific one-on-one therapy. So I migrated over to running long-term care residential environments for many years. And it's called culture change now, but back in the days I was doing it, it was just the golden rule. It's how you did things, And our programs for our residents that were living with dementia were vibrant. I mean, we had no limits. Like, for example, one of the things that we would do in the summer with my daughters is we'd go and get a bushel of steamed Maryland crabs, and we'd bring them back and throw newspapers on a table. And, anybody who wanted could, come and pick crab. And of course, our nurses were like, well, what are you doing? Maybe they have a seafood allergy. We don't want anybody to choke. And we're like, well, check the records, make sure nobody has a seafood allergy. But this is what you do in life, right? And so I spent many, many years caring for individuals who had very advanced symptoms of dementia. And sort of the conventional thinking was, oh, they're not there. There's just an empty shell. And I'm like, have you spent any time around them? No, I always knew, what they wanted and, what things brought them joy, what kind of music, whether it was telling a joke, kibitzing, bringing them a cup of tea, and it was just a matter of creating that relationship. And, we didn't maybe sit and have a conventional conversation, but we engaged in other ways. And so it led me to thinking that why isn't there an organization? I started with the Alzheimer's Association, and, they were good back in the 80s and 90s, because there was nothing out there. But by 1996, it was like, we're not doing it right. There were lots of other people in the country, many of whom you've interviewed for this program, who got it. But there wasn't like a strong connection. So started a nonprofit organization to really focus on changing the culture and believing that people living with dementia at all symptom levels, enjoy life, have lots of things that they can do until their last breath. My own father lived with Alzheimer's, so I have one family member connection. But I remember at the very end of his life, my mom was always watching his weight. So she didn't want him to have ice cream, but I knew he loved ice cream. And he was on hospice. He was literally at the end of his life. And my mom had gone home to shower and get some sleep. And my dad was pretty comatose most of the time. And I remember going up to his bed and going, Dad, there's ice cream in the freezer. Do you want a bowl of ice cream? And his eyes open, and that's the memories that I want to have is, and I think that's what we're starting to, we've been doing at the Dementia Action Alliance.
What you were saying was so on point, because I'll never forget seeing a picture of a lady kind of in the latter stages that they couldn't get to talk, they couldn't get to do anything. Well, somebody put a set of headphones on her with her favorite music. And all of a sudden she's kind of moving with the music, and it's just how you can react. And that, your story with your father and the ice cream is just, you can relate to people, but you have to go to them. So many people think, well, I want them to come to me. Well, they can't. You have to go to them. And with that, could you have ever imagined when you started DAA that it would be where it is now? And kind of read off, list some of the things that we've done. It is amazing.
Not in my wildest dreams. You're so right, Chuck. Like, for example, we got to work with the PBS affiliate and, create a documentary. We partnered with the Eden Alternative and created we're just one series, one guide in, but the Raising the Bar series. We are known for, really changing the thought of living with dementia as a disability. That, right away, if you think of it as a disability, you think about, oh, well, what supports does that person need? And that we don't normally think about, and some of those supports can just be, it's too noisy here. We need to make it a little bit more quiet or not as busy. What all else? Well, I remember when we started almost 25 years ago, we thought, oh, you had to have an office and furniture and, staff and all this stuff. And, so we did all that. And then we realized, a year or so in, wow, we were spending all our time just on the infrastructure. That's not what we had in mind. We wanted to do good. We wanted to make things better. So we got rid of all of that. And years ago, people, we've been working virtually for years and years. I mean, that was not a thing back then. People didn't understand. What do you mean you don't have an office? And, this whole idea of Zoom, we've been using Zoom way before, COVID hit. But that allowed us to focus and do, really special and good things. And if I may jump ahead, with our 25th anniversary coming up, I am so excited because it's going to be a chance that we're going to, I guess we've always been about collaborating. We've never thought that I may have some expertise about dementia, but you're the expert. The experts are the people who are living with the condition. And the only way we can really, make progress, better understand the condition and how to help and support is by partnering. So, I think of it as linking arms. So our model is more like, as the civil rights movement, where there were lots of groups doing things and they joined together. And that's how I see us, making impact, because too much of our culture is filled with myths about living with dementia, and that harms you all. That, we really need to stop with this doom and gloom narrative. There's absolutely no doubt getting a diagnosis is a significant gut punch. but it is a chronic condition. And the best thing is to help people understand, how you live with this, how you manage symptoms. And I know that one of the things that you do, one of the many things that you do, Chuck, is, support and mentor others. And I love, you all are so wonderful to not only be courageous and talk openly about what you're living through, but to give of your time selflessly, to help others along the journey. So what a joy, this whole journey has been.
Well, I have to say what DAA has meant to me.
Oh,
When I first, I was always following on Mike. Most of the people that watch us know Mike Belleville. I've been holding on to his shirt tails ever since the day I met him. And I was sitting in a place where I had no alternatives to do anything. And when I, first met you and the people on with DAA, I always tell, and I've told it to you before, the story of my first time as a speaking engagement. And I was very nervous because it was the first time I flew by myself. And we went to Philadelphia. And Jackie said, well, they were going to, Jackie Pikowitz, who is the chairman of the board of DAA, said, well, we'll be there to pick you up. And I remember getting off the airplane, and as soon as I walked by security, there she was. And it was like you guys wrapped us in swaddling clothes and carried us over. And we did our talks. And because it was one of the, I think they call it continuing care community.
yes.
And there was two of them. So we did one in the morning and one in the evening. And the second one we did, and there was probably around 100 people at each one. This lady came up and she's crying. And she's thanking us for being there. I said, that's great. We love being here. I said, are you okay? And she goes, oh yes, these are tears of joy. She goes, for the first time ever, my husband admitted that he had dementia and that he needed to be there listening to you. And that is the type of help we provide. That's what we do. And that one incident just made my day, to be able to work with a group. And our sole purpose is to help people that are going through some of the hardest times that there is. And, that's because of people like you that started this. Now, this being the big 25th anniversary, what do you see us doing in maybe the next 3 or 4 years?
Well, the first project is starting right at the very beginning. So often, and you and some of others created a fabulous video about the diagnostic experience that we have on our website, but it still hasn't changed. The experience mostly is people go to a number of different doctors. The doctors don't want to pass along the diagnosis. They finally do, and then it's often something like, get your affairs in order and come back in 6 months and we'll monitor. Well, that doesn't tell you how you live with this chronic condition. And so one of the first projects, our dream is to change the diagnostic experience. So many doctors think that there's no cure, it's nothing we can do. And Mike Belleville, who you just mentioned earlier, he always talks about when you get diagnosed, doctors should be pulling out their prescription pad and writing a prescription for engagement. Don't stop living, keep doing things, keep challenging yourself, find things that are meaningful. And so we want to do a research project and partner with some medical institutions so that we can, start figuring out what are the right words, what is the protocol. So that's one project we want to do. Another is the webinar series, a 3-webinar series that is uniquely presented by people living with dementia. Because you all, that woman you were describing who came up with tears of joy, when you all speak, it is uniquely powerful. And so the three-part series will cover, a lot of ground, and how impactful to hear directly, from you all and your experiences. So that's a project. We want to do another celebrity cook-off. We did one this past year with Alton Brown. We want to do at least another one or two. That was so much fun. What else do we want to do? Well, we've just expanded the virtual engagement program. And you and Barney, didn't you have your first, because you host the sports club. How did it go?
It was amazing. We had 9 people.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just fun we have no set script, it's just people getting on and just kind of talking. Janice was on, and there was 3 gentlemen from her facility that we got engaged with. Awesome. And they were sitting there with big smiles on their faces, listening to what we were talking about. So I think it's filling a void that people don't think that, us with dementia can, have passions about sports and talk about sports and talk about these things. And this kind of goes to prove that we can, that we still have passions. We love our teams. We love this. We love to yell and scream and do all of these things. And somehow with the word dementia, that, people think that umbrella comes down over your head, and you're not an entity anymore. And that's so far from the truth. The only thing we want to do, though, is we want to get some ladies on to get their perspective of it.
All right. So we need to keep our eyes open for the ladies who are into sports. Okay. That would be a lot. Oh, I would love that. They're out there. They just haven't noticed it yet. And that's part of what I love is you all are myth busting all the time by doing these different different things. Like when we started the podcast, and the idea of the hosts are people living with dementia naturally. To us, that's just part of our culture. But other people are like, really? And you are awesome. So that's another one of mine for the 25th anniversary. I want Ira Glass, because your program, This Dementia Life, was always a nod to Ira Glass's This American Life at NPR. And wouldn't it be fun this year to get Ira Glass to do a piece on on your podcast?
Oh, I think that would be
you can interview him.
I'll also put it out there. Anytime any one of these celebrities or anything wants to have a golf match, and we'll tape it and put it on.
Yeah. Does everybody know what a golfer you are?
No, I don't know. But I think the best thing about DAA, it allows people to see us the way we want to be seen. We are individuals. We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. And I think what's happened is when we go to speak and there's 2 or 3 of us, we have such a different perspective of the same thing. And people can relate, and we never tell anybody, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you have to do this. We say, this is what works for us, to at least get them thinking about it.
Right.
And not preaching to them that here's the book, you have to do it this way. And I think that's what I found a place in my heart for DAA, because it takes that aspect of we are individuals. We won't tell you what to do, but we will show you what works for us. And I think that's so important for people to look at, to put a face with this word dementia and learn more about it and understand what it does to you so that you can find your workarounds.
Yes. and share with one another about when something, with a symptom, and this works for me, and, at least feel like you're not alone. And I think that's what so many people and families, feel is that they're the only ones, even though they know there are other numbers. But how do you connect? How do you engage? And that's part of what we dream is to, you know, continue to be a bigger and bigger platform, so that people can connect and engage and lift one another. You know, I remember this past year, one of your fellow advisory board members, Lori Shearer, said, I think we ought to do a open discussion, have a Zoom, just the line open, publicize it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And Christmas Day, at one point, one man got on. He hadn't been involved in anything that we had done, any of our other programs. Was on and was really suicidal. I mean, he was in a really bad way. Well, just happened that one of the other people who was on, Lori was on at this point too, but one of the other gentlemen, he had been in that exact same place as what the other man was describing. And he shared his personal experience. And, it turned the corner for that one man, and it just is so powerful that we can't do this alone. We need to, have others. So, as I said, I continue to be humbled and amazed at what you all do.
Well, it's because we have a platform, and I think we, down deep, there's a lot of people that can be advocates, but they just don't know it yet. Like I had no idea when I got diagnosed that it would take me here. I just knew that by talking with people, it helped me. And that's what I tell, just talk with people about it. Talk to your family, have open lines of communication. Because this is a family disease. It's not an individual disease. It affects every single person in the family, from the youngest to the oldest. And everybody has, and to be able to talk with children and see the adults smiling and joking and laughing, it takes that whole, excuse me, it takes that whole stigma and takes it away. Now the kids say, well, oh, okay, he is okay, or she is okay. I don't have to worry that they're going to die right away. And you know how kids, once they see something, then they react instantaneously. Oh, you're going to die. Well, when they see people enjoying themselves and joking and laughing and talking about it, it kind of takes those fears and puts them to the side.
Yeah.
It takes all that stress off of the family, which is so important for now, because the families go through so much. As working in care facilities and everything, what the families go through. And especially now with the COVID going on.
Oh, right. And the isolation. Well, I love when you do public speaking. One of the things that, I think is so powerful is, because right now people would look at you and say, he has dementia? I don't see any symptoms or signs. And you talk about, in fact, you've even given him a name, Chucky. And that's another myth, is that the symptoms are constant throughout, but they don't work that way, Yeah, and I love that you talk about that and kind of put a face on it.
Well, everybody is different. And I hate that when they come up with, okay, well, you're in stage 1 going to stage 2 and then to stage 3 and stage 4. Talking with everybody that's on our advisory council, you can go from 2 to 7, back to 3, up to 5, like Lori in one day. It's just because a lot of our symptoms, when we're dealing with something stressful,
Right.
it really aggravates our symptoms. I know mine is. And
Yes.
I have that visual problem that if I'm looking for something and I'm stressed, I'm looking really hard, I see about that much of everything around me. And that's it. If what I'm looking for is sitting right here, I won't see it. And you have to understand these things about you. Because rather than, Bobby getting upset at it, she understands it.
Yeah.
So she will go get it. It's not that I'm just too lazy to find it. It's I don't have the ability to find it. And that's where the communication process is so important. And I think DAA, that's what we advocate. Talk.
Well, you're educating that this is one of my symptoms. Things get narrowed down and it's like, oh, I had no idea. And Mike Belfield talks, like, for example, Mike would not like what I'm wearing today because for his visual sensitivity, it would look like I'm just a head, that I'm this kind of floating head. The shirt should have a little bit more coloration or something. So, all right, bad me. I'll have to remember not to wear dark on stuff like this. But that's what's, so helpful is that you're educating all of us, about the different symptoms and ways that we can help support, you all to enable you to be, functioning at the best you can. It's all of us, that are, should be raising the boat together. Yeah.
And have, a group of people like we have on the advisory group, so diverse, so caring about one another and helping one another, I think just says wonders about the how DAA is ran and the character of people who run it, because you bring out the best in us.
Wow.
And I want to thank you so much for doing that, because it's not very often you can take a position with a group like DAA, and number one is feel like it's a family, that you're cared about and people worry about you. And especially with me, because traveling alone, I can get from point A to point B, but being at a conference by myself would be very difficult without people looking out for me. And you do, so you provide me with what I need to continue to do what I love to do. And I thank you for it.
Oh, we love having you back. Are you kidding? It's one of the joys. So thank you. And yeah, hang on to our hats because we've got a busy time ahead.
That is awesome.
Right?
Okay, I've got one last question for you. I ask it of everybody that comes on.
Okay.
If this was the first video that somebody saw after a diagnosis, whether a care partner or a person living with a disease, what would you want them to know?
That you don't have to do this alone. That I think that's probably the scariest thing is, what do I do? My life is over. I just kind of go into this hole. And to know that there are others that, are living fully with a diagnosis of dementia. And we're here to walk the journey with you. And as you said, I loved what you said before, because it's really important. Nobody's pigeonholed into, all right, here's our formula and you have to do it like this. We're a huge, diverse, crazy group of people, and we are a family. And it's because whatever works for anybody is the right way for them, but you're not alone. And I think that's the hardest thing for people is initially, because doctors don't connect you. I mean, there are doctors' offices, rarely do that. And so every family, every person has to figure it out by themselves. And that's just super scary on top of scary.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. And we'll have to do it maybe in a year to find out where we're going and how many steps we made this year. So I want to thank you so much for being on here. I do greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. This was great fun. Thanks, Chuck.
I would like to thank the Dementia Action Alliance for their support on behalf of This Dementia Life. I would like to thank you for joining us today. You can view other podcasts on our website, daanow.org. Click on podcasts. Please join me again to meet the most inspiring and amazing people on This Dementia Life. I'm your host, Chuck McClatchey, and remember, the brain may forget, but the heart will remember. We'll see you next time on This Dementia Life.